Are you new to investing? Wondering whether or not you can self-manage your properties? Let us tell you about our partner, RentRedi. RentRedi is an awesome property management software that can help you grow and handle every aspect of your real estate investing business. Rent collection, tenant screening, maintenance, lease signing, listing. Honestly, RentRedi has everything.
One of the best features is their new tenant software, Latchel, where you're able to remove yourself as the landlord from being the middleman between tenants and maintenance calls. And it's also essentially a fraction of the cost of what you would pay for property management.
Let me also mention that RentRedi is unlimited. All their plans are flat price. This means you can keep adding properties to your portfolio without having to pay more. You can close on all the properties you want, and RentRedi's price stays the same. Best part about it is for you guys is they've given us an amazing deal to pass on to all Weekly Juice listeners. You can get 50% off any RentRedi plan at rentredi.com when you use our code JuicePod. That's rentredi.com, RentrediI.com with code JuicePod, JUICEPOD, and you'll get 50% off any plan. If this is your first time here, welcome. During our shows, we interview successful entrepreneurs and investors to spread knowledge, advice, and actionable tactics to help others in the pursuit of financial freedom. We discuss successes, failures, systems, motivations, experiences, and key lessons learned along the way in the hopes that these stories help you along your journey. Tune in every Wednesday to get your weekly juice. If you've been here before and like what you've been hearing, please subscribe, share with friends, rate and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. That goes an extremely long way for us. It's simple. Just click on your podcast app, type in our podcast name, The Weekly Juice, click on the reviews, and let us know what you think. The more ratings we get, the more eyes we'll get in our show, and in turn, we'll be able to provide you all with high-quality guests. You can also find us on Instagram at Weekly Juice Pod for daily content and personal finance tips to assist in your journey towards financial freedom. Welcome back to the Weekly Juice, where we talk real estate, personal finance, and entrepreneurship. As always, it's your boys, Ryan and Corey, here with another episode for you. Today, we had on special guest, John from John E Finance. You've probably seen him on Instagram or TikTok. He has over 1 million followers on his TikTok.
1 million.
1 million.
Yeah.
He talks about financial independence, personal finance, real estate, like pretty much everything we talk about on a daily basis. He puts it into small, concise little nuggets on TikTok, and the videos that come out they're awesome. And
I love his stuff when he's on TikTok. I does some on Instagram too. It's like him talking to himself,
dressed up as another version.
Yeah,
of himself.
it's really funny.
It's hilarious. He puts a lot of time and effort into it, and actually, it's pretty cool. He just was able to leave his 9 to 5 because his side hustle became his main hustle, and all of his income, I guess, well, through house hacking and also through this business, he has more than enough to cover his lifestyle expenses. So he's doing the thing.
Saves over 50% of his income. Basically, a large percentage of that comes from his ability to house hack. He lives in one half of the duplex, rents out the other side, subsidizes his mortgage. I think he pays like $400 or $500 a month in just living expenses, which is awesome, which helps him set himself up for investing. And he's only 25 years old. So like the fact that he's able to do this, leave his main job at 25 years old to pursue a passionate side hustle. I mean,
it's awesome. I don't want to go too far into his backstory because he shares it early in the episode, but great episode. Young guy that's super successful already, and he took a leap of faith, right? And it's worked out so far. So I think without further ado, we should bring in John and welcome him on the show. John, officially welcome to the show. Corey and I are thrilled to have you here. We've been following you on social for a while now, and wanted to get your story out there on our end to our listeners. You have a great educational platform on both Instagram and TikTok, talking about personal finance. There's a little real estate in there, and we love it. We consume it daily, so figured we would get our crew here on board as well. So if you could just give people a little bit of a background on yourself, who you are, where you're from, but more importantly, how you got into the FIRE movement.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I have to thank you guys, Corey and Ryan, for inviting me on the podcast. I'm super stoked to talk about, finances. Obviously, this is a big passion of mine. And I also saw you guys on Instagram and creating your podcast as well. I'm a huge fan of you guys as well. So just thank you for having me. But I can definitely dive into my story. Basically what started this whole movement is, I was, in high school and I went to college as a finance major. And so I was learning about all these high level finance tactics, whether it's, corporate accounting, financial accounting, all these business finance classes. And, it kind of got into, I was like, okay, when are we going to start learning about our own money management, building our own wealth? And I realized that I never took a personal finance class in college. I was a finance major and I never took a personal finance class in college. And so it just was like a hit to me. I was like, if they're not teaching finance majors personal finance, they're not teaching anyone else personal finance. And so that's where I saw the gap in education. I was like, okay, I'm going to take it upon myself to start educating people on personal finance because it's such a lack of education in our system. So that's kind of how it all started. That's when the light bulb clicked. I was like, okay, I need to start teaching this because obviously high schools and colleges aren't.
Cool. Was it something about your upbringing that drawed you to being interested in finance in general? I'm just curious because there's always like a moment where you decide that you're going to pursue this as like a side hustle, but also potentially a passion of yours, clearly a passion of yours. When did it like make sense that or like just from your upbringing, is there anything that sparked it for you?
Yeah, I think, I wasn't specifically interested in money like as an upbringing, but I always had kind of an entrepreneurial spirit. And I knew that going into college, like I didn't want to just major in entrepreneurship. I wanted to do something that was a little more versatile. And so that's why I ended up choosing finance. And, I could go different directions. I could go accounting, I could go finance, I could go entrepreneurship. And so, eventually if I wanted to run a business, I would have to know how to manage my finances, And so that's it was more entrepreneurial going into finances, how that kind of started. And so I started learning about money, started consuming literally everything I could find my hands on about personal finance, money management, how to build wealth essentially. And that's what really kind of, sparked the fire under me.
Got it. What were some of the first steps that you took? I assume when you're starting to teach this and starting to learn about it, consume it, you're at college, just after college. What were some of the first steps that you took in your own financial journey to start kind of, I guess, get the ball rolling and start the path?
Yeah. So I think the first step, and for anyone, this goes for anyone, you need to start with self-education. And because obviously, schools aren't teaching this stuff. So I started reading books. I started listening to podcasts. I made it a habit to listen to a podcast on my commute. And that was kind of how I started building that knowledge, building that framework. And so it really is all mostly self-education. I was reading, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I was listening to Bigger Pockets podcast, Choose FI, and all these big, financial education platforms. And that's what really started, opening the floodgates, essentially. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm finally learning how to manage my money. And I got to, I felt the responsibility to teach it to everyone else. And that's why I started getting into the more financial education content from there.
It's funny that you say that. Once you started learning, it was like an aha moment. And I had the same thing. Once I started, Choose FI actually was a big one in the beginning for me. I haven't listened to them recently, but they were big in just the framework of financial independence, because to most people it's completely foreign. And I remember sitting in my car thinking about this and listening to it and going I know a lot of really, really smart people who don't know anything about this, who are just working and working and working, and there's just no end in sight. So it's really cool that you started that way, because I agree, education is definitely the first.
And yeah, I just wanted to put a point on that. It's I call it being high on FI. It's when you learn about financial independence, you just something's clicks and you're oh my gosh, I need to tell everyone about this. I need to shout this from the rooftops. I need to tell my friends and family. It's such a pivotal framework, such a mindset shift.
Probably don't understand and maybe won't, but that's okay, right? I know I tried to do the same thing and people were dude, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. This doesn't actually work. And then here we are for us 3-4 years later, it's actually working. It's a hell of a lot better than, hoping on a wish and a prayer for 40 years. Right. So yeah. I like that story of yours. I'm wondering if you have any, what is your primary investing tactic, I guess, or maybe is there a specific savings rate, or what are some individual pieces of your journey that you would like to maybe share with our listeners?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot to it, and Well, I try and make it as simple as possible. Obviously, I'm a big fan of index funds. I think we all are. And I think that is the most passive way to invest. It's hands off. You don't have to think about it. So I'm a big proponent of index funds in general. I also like investing in real estate. I actually bought a duplex when I was 24 years old. I'm currently living in it right now. I'm renting out the bottom and living in the top. So I'm house hacking that way. So that's, real estate investing on training wheels. I'm also investing a bunch of time and money into my business, which is just financial education in general. And so those kind of index funds, real estate, and investing into a business, I think is the three big categories I see myself putting my time and money into.
When you say, first of all, thank you. Let's dive into bucket number one or arm number one here on index funds. Are you putting these in a brokerage, a Roth IRA, or how are you kind of segmenting it? And then also, can you give some of maybe specific like ticker signs or symbols that you're investing in? I know specifically for Corey and I, we do Vanguard, and there's a couple we can talk about, but I'm curious about yours.
Yeah, absolutely. So for the index funds, I use an account. It's a Roth IRA. So basically, I max out my Roth IRA every single year. That's $6,000 per year. I also have an HSA, which I max out as well. That's a little more nuanced, but I invest in index funds in there as well. And I also have a brokerage account, just a general taxable brokerage account that I put that I invest in index funds. And for specific tickers, I use Fidelity for everything. So I use Fidelity funds mostly, and some of my favorite tickers are FZROX and FNILX. Those are just basically total stock market index funds. The second is an S&P 500 index fund.
Got it. Are you investing a portion of your income monthly? Is that kind of the way you do it? I know some people do it weekly, some people do it monthly, some people take chunks at the end of the quarter. I personally do it monthly, and I only do a small portion right now because we're investing so heavily in real estate. But, a couple $100 a month here and there. Well, not here and there, every month actually. I like DGRO and IUSG as just, honestly, I'm a little bit, I don't know as much as somebody like you would. So I believe that they're like contra fund type funds, but I've been advised by a financial advisor.
So you mentioned a couple through Fidelity. There's a couple through Vanguard that I like. VT-SAX is one, and then VFIX is one. And then some of them cover the S&P 500. The other one's the total stock of the international stock, sorry. And so I think it's just great as a basket of funds, right? Where you just set it and forget it, but it covers, you're basically trying to match the market. You're not trying to beat it per se and like, throwing darts here and there. But some people like that, right? It just, there's day traders and then there's guys like us that kind of just, we want a part of our portfolio and want to diversify a little bit.
Yeah. But just one point on that is the reason I primarily invested in index funds is like, I could take time out of my day and try and do research and pick the best stock, but it is extremely time consuming trying to figure out, which stock is going to go up or what to invest in. And so if I can, my time is my most valuable asset. So if I can, offload the investing to index funds, I can really spend that time more like into my business where I can create a higher like dollar per hour task from there. So that's why I primarily move towards index funds over individual stock picking. So it's tough to give a certain percentage. I mean, I save, I would say, over 50% of my income right now. But that goes to different investments. So, I'm saving up actually for a second property in real estate, and, some goes into index funds and then some goes into my business. So it depends on which season I'm at. But right now I'm really looking to use those funds for my next property in real estate to house hack another property. And then I'm usually just maxing out a Roth IRA at $500 per month and then maxing out the HSA. So that's primarily where the index funds are going.
That's great. Let's talk about the house hack. I mentioned real estate a little bit here too, and you're building up your portfolio. So duplex, you're renting out the bottom unit, living in the top. Can you talk, even just if they're broad numbers, close to basically what you bought it for, what it rents for, what you cash flow for, and then maybe the area that it's in, if you're comfortable with that, just because a lot of people are always asking us, hey, I'm curious of like best places to buy, like what cash flow number do you not go underneath? There's a lot of, basic questions. It'd be cool to hear from you.
Yeah, absolutely. I know you guys are in Philadelphia, so I'm curious to see how these numbers compare. I'm in Cincinnati, so it's a relatively, in my opinion, somewhat similar market. It's not like California or New York.
No, but Cincinnati, that's like a huge market. There's a booming real estate market in Cincinnati. I don't know specifically where you are, but a lot of people, I hear a lot of talk about Cincinnati, so that's great.
Yeah. So I was luckily. So I got in last year. It was basically I was house hunting throughout COVID, and that was what was kind of risky. But I eventually I closed on a house in July of 2020. It was a duplex here in Cincinnati, and I can tell you the numbers. Basically, the purchase price was $252,000, and I kind of did back of the napkin math on like looking at the 1% rule, basically, can I get 1% of rent from the purchase price? And looking at it, if I rented both units out, I could get about $2,400-$2,500 from it. So I was like, hey, this is basically the 1% rule. I know it's a rule of thumb and it doesn't hit, on every market, but I felt pretty comfortable going into it. It was minimal rehab costs. And so I purchased it. Yeah. $252,000. I can go, even the down payment, I can go into as well. Like, I used a 5% conventional loan. I put 12.5 down, with closing costs. It was about $16,000 altogether, to get a $252,000 duplex. And then, let's see. Oh, the mortgage payment is about $1,600 right now. And I'm getting, I believe $1,150 right now from the downstairs.
That's really funny that you mentioned this, because I purchased, wasn't a duplex, it was a single family home for $250,000. I actually put 10% down instead of 5 because it was in the beginning, I just didn't even know. So I had $15,000 right there that I could have just saved essentially and not put in, but it's in the equity in the home. But that's really cool. So you're subsidizing your living expenses, and you're only spending roughly $500 a month, where I don't know anybody who can rent anywhere, especially if you're living alone, for $500 a month. So it's great. I think people have this misconception about house hacking that like it's not worth it unless you can cover your entire mortgage. And I'm like, right. Well, it's also the opportunity cost of not spending $1,500 to rent somewhere. You're saving, in that case, $1,000 a month, which can go into your next funds or your next real estate deal. So very cool.
So let's talk specifically financial independence, right? And a lot of people say that, or they put together a plan, right? They have a FI number. Like as soon as I hit X amount per month, I'm done. I'm out of the so-called rat race, if you will. Do you have specific guidelines that you live by and you're like, hey, listen, once I hit this number, I'm out? Or like I can consider myself financially free? Because the reason I bring it up is a lot of people use once I have 25 times the amount of my annual expenses, I'm good. Or, then other people go, like Corey and I, we think about it as like, okay, if we have cash flow from our rental properties that equal our annual expenses, we're technically good. Everything else is icing on the cake. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I love it. And both ways are totally, understandable, whether you want to do 25 times your income or have your rental properties pay, like subsidize your expenses, basically. I kind of use a combination of both. I want rental properties. I don't want to be this big real estate mogul. I just want maybe, 5 to 10 properties, I would say. Have that cash flow fund, most of my lifestyle, but then also have index funds and some passive income from there as well. So it's kind of like a combination of both. And to be honest, I haven't really pinpointed a certain number that I want, because with me, I think being financially free means being able to work on what you want. You can work when you want to work on what you're passionate about. And I feel like I'm already doing that by having Johnny Finance and just promoting financial education there. So I really feel, extremely blessed in the position I am because, I may not have 25 times my expenses. I may not have cash flow covering my expenses, but I am working on something that I love. And I think that's the biggest proponents of financial independence.
I think it's important to note, John, that a lot of people look at real estate and financial independence movement as this escape of their everyday life, right? Or this like, I have to go invest in real estate. And a lot of people don't even like real estate and they think they want to do it. And then they spend all this time to try to do it to escape, right? But what you're saying is you're kind of combining things that you like, right? You're already kind of living your financial independence life. You're just getting closer and closer and closer as you continue to invest. So I think that's the beauty of this, where if you're really interested in it, like we are genuinely interested in real estate. Now, do we like every single aspect of it? Probably not, but we have learned how to adjust along the way, and we know that every property that we get to, it gets us closer to our goal, and we enjoy it along the way. So I think that's it's important to note that it's not just this escape, but you can build it kind of as you go.
And also, I think you guys, love doing this podcast. You get to meet amazing people. You get to learn from each other. This is a podcast is a win-win-win. It's a win for you guys. It's a win for me, and it's a win for the audience. And so working on a business like that, I think is just it's so rewarding and fulfilling. So I think you guys are already crushing it.
Couldn't agree more.
Thank you. Yeah, I really could not agree more with that. It's funny. We were talking before the show. I was like, just got home from my commute from work. I'm like, obviously you're working for someone else daily, right? I guess some people say this, you're working for someone else's dream. And then you get to work on yours, after work. And I'm like, this is the longest ride, sitting in traffic, but then, I'm tired. But then I come back here and I get to talk to you guys, and it just brings this like extra fire. And you're like, dude, this is what I want to do. And you're having fun doing it. So directly to that point, it's a win-win-win. And I just think it's fun to talk about. And I'll say for Corey and I too, like it's been, and obviously if it hasn't come full circle for you yet, it definitely will. But like, it's a lot of things, you really get to show who you are. And then people start to like you and trust you. And they'll start flipping you deals, whether it will be something on the e-commerce side, it'd be something on the real estate side, or just they want to help you get to their level if they are above you and they help bring you up. Or you get the guy that's 5 steps behind you and thanks you for helping them along their journey and change their life. Like there's so many wins in there. I can't even say them, but it's win, 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 win. And it's just fulfilling. So, I appreciate you bringing that up, because there are some days that you're like, wow, man, like this is tough and it's a lot of time, but it is super rewarding. Sorry, go ahead. Did you have something to say?
No, I agree with everything you say. There's so many opportunities there. They always come. So it's just awesome to hear that.
It's very exciting and rewarding. But I had one for you, because I know you studied finance in school, and then obviously you're teaching financial education right now. What are your thoughts on someone like the everyday person hiring a financial advisor versus DIYing your finances by yourself? Like, what would you recommend to certain people, and kind of what are your thoughts on that? Because we get asked that question a lot, and I have a financial planner. I believe Corey is an advisor too, but some people, I would think we know more than a lot of people out there, and we still have that person, but some people swear against them. They're taking this percentage away from you, and I'm just curious what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I love the question. And what's so great about personal finance is it's personal, right? It's so nuanced to everyone's situation. I'm not going to say that it's black and white. You should or you shouldn't have a financial advisor, because it all depends on your personal situation. I tend to think that the majority of people do not need one, that they can do most of the investing themselves. They can invest in index funds, set it and forget it, and they'll be just fine for retirement. But for the certain people that either are high net worth people where they need a financial advisor, or, I think CPAs are just as valuable too, to do your taxes and things like that. So if you have, a lot of money you're willing to spend and it's going to be a good ROI, I think a financial advisor makes sense. In my opinion, I think what most people are thinking they need a financial advisor is they just need a financial coach, like someone to kind of help them break down their budget, help them hit their goals. Not necessarily manage their money, but just kind of help them along the process. So I think there is a difference between a financial coach and a financial advisor.
I agree. A lot of people need like an accountability buddy or someone to hold them accountable, right? And just to help set up the systems. Because once you have a system that flows, you're good to go. And you can, some people are crazy. We check every day. Me and this guy. I don't know what they do, but there's also people that don't check for months, or they'll do a couple check-ins per year and they're like, okay, I'm on track. I just think of, if you're going the index fund route, like it is something that you don't have to check every so often. Maybe it's like every few months you just make sure your allocations, maybe you want to put more in the stock side of things, or you want to put more on the bond side of things later down the line. But it is cool to hear from you on that, because I know you can go one way or the other, right? And sometimes I feel like, hey, I'm wasting money throwing this guy out some cash on the side where I could easily do this myself. But there's a lot of people that need that person just to say, like, it's a coach, right? That kicks you into high gear when you need to and when you're lacking. So I appreciate that there. I have a fun question for you. We thought of it, I think, an episode ago. We were debating putting it in our core four at the end, but I'll just ask you now. So if you had an extra $50,000 right now, like discretionary income, how would you distribute that? Like, what would you buy? What would you invest in? And maybe it's all in one thing, but just picture you had a whole pie. Like, how would you sliver it off?
Yeah, to me, this is almost a no-brainer. Actually, I would primarily use it for real estate. If I had $50,000, I would be putting that directly into my next house hack. I've been saving. Again, it's my personal situation. Is like I want to get into that next house hack. That's kind of like my next goal. And if I can find a duplex or even a quadplex, I'd like to go a step ahead, move into a quadplex or something like that. I think that would be how I primarily use most of that cash. And to be honest, I would maybe, if I just had $50,000, I would maybe do 40,000 into real estate and then 10,000 maybe into something a little more speculative. I don't know how you guys think about cryptocurrency. I'm not the biggest advocate of it, but I do think there's some money to be said about it. So
we're hearing that a lot of smart people, smarter than us, at least smarter than me, will say that a percentage of your portfolio can be allocated like 5%. I haven't done that yet, and I don't necessarily want to because I just don't understand it. Literally, I don't understand almost anything about how it physically works. Do I think there's value in it? Yeah, but I think it's like this speculative thing, like you said. So I think it's maybe something that if we had enough income coming in where we would just be like, I don't care if this goes to zero, maybe it would be something that we would get into.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what percentage of it is, but I basically I put in, I'll just talk bluntly about it. I think Bitcoin was at like 16.5 or something like that. People would be like, oh my God, you should put all your money into that. You'd be filthy rich right now. So I put, I think 16, what the buy-in was
1600?
16,000. No, 1600 I would actually hurt myself. But no, so it was 16,000. But so I bought some of that. I bought some Ethereum and then also Litecoin. So just a very small amount. I think it was like $2,000 all in. And at one point I was up to like 10,000. My portfolio, I'm like, that was the smartest thing I ever did. Look back a couple days later, it's back at 5,000. Like, thank the Lord I didn't put all my money in there. So it is a crazy thing. You hear that certain banks or big conglomerates are starting to be able to use Bitcoin and they're going to start letting people pay with that. And there's highs and lows in the news about it every day, but it's something that we just don't know enough about, or personally I don't know enough about. And I don't have I hate to say I don't have the time because you make time for things that are important, but to me that's just I'm not super into it. I like something that I can touch and hold, and I don't know. It's just a little bit different for me. I hear blockchain and then NFTs. People will probably crucify me for these, but I think it is so dumb. And I'm probably going to look back at this episode 10 years from now and be like, I'm an idiot. But it's like an online trading card. That's how I view it. It's there's a moment in time that's captured and people are selling it, whether it's something signed, whether it's like a video clip that goes back and forth. And I'm just what if your power goes out, dude? Then it's gone. You don't have it.
Yeah,
so
I don't get it either.
I don't know. I'm a tangible guy. So, that's
why I'm not going to go against Gary Vee also, too. I'm just
it's Bitcoin.
He's a lot smarter than me.
It can probably make you shitload. I just don't know.
Do you have any, John?
I don't have any NFTs, unfortunately, but I think there is a mental model or a space that can come from it in the future. And I think what you guys are doing, let me put something on this. It's if you guys are doing real estate great, you should continue doing real estate great. You shouldn't try to put a finger in every single, asset class. And so people come to me, they're like, hey, I have $500. Which stock or which cryptocurrency should I put it in? It's no, you should invest in yourself, start learning skills and new businesses until you really have, some money to actually invest.
Yeah.
So,
I love that. And one of the reasons why I love it is because I think that, I don't know where I heard this. I always refer to Brandon Turner. I'm not sure if he's the one who said it. He's the one I heard it from, but building different bridges that never actually never get built all the way across, right? And I look at investing in 10 to 15 different things, you're building these bridges and you may not ever make it across, where if it's I know for a fact if I double, triple, quadruple down on real estate and I just hold that and I continue to do it for, I don't know, somewhere between 5 and 15 years, I'm going to look back and be really thankful that I did, because it's proven over and over and over through time. And that's all the evidence that I really need in my head. Whereas blockchain and crypto, there's there's 17-year-olds that are crypto millionaires, then that's good for them. It's just like, I'm not going to bet on something that is just came to be. So it's
yeah, I completely agree. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's a thinker. I actually love. I never heard the bridge analogy. I really like that.
It's like shiny object syndrome is kind of a similar thing. It's like
it makes perfect sense. No, I really like it. I'm just trying to think about mine. Like, there's like, I think we talked about them all, right? You talk about your index funds. You talk about your real estate. But also, like, within the index funds, you have the 401k, you have an HSA, you have a Roth IRA, you have a brokerage account. Like, you can play around with everything. There's just so much out there that I think it will confuse people. Like, when we're just rattling off things, people are driving are like, what are you even talking about? So I think it's getting your core down that you want and start, but like, go all in on something and then play around a little bit in other things, but I don't think you give it all of your time, right?
Agreed. I really agree with that. I have a specific, we're going to get into your talk about TikTok and the Simple Money guys too, as we get towards the second half of our show, but I have a specific question for you. We're going to put you on the spot a little bit. I'm just curious with what you've done in the real estate or in real estate and just finance in general, how you would answer this. So let's say somebody that you know makes $75,000 a year and they have $50K in student loan debt. Let's say they have, $15,000, $20,000 saved up. They're in their mid-20s. Are you somebody that would tell this person, go pay off that debt? Don't think about anything until you pay off the debt. Or would you say, no, invest while you're paying off debt, or go buy a house hack? What are some steps that you would take? And the reason why I ask this is because I think a lot of our listeners are in a similar scenario to just that's kind of an average of people having student loan debt and being in their mid-20s and looking to reach financial independence.
Yeah. I definitely think a lot of people are in this situation. And I think it depends on your interest rate on student loans. So let's say you have some private student loans and they're charging like 10 or 12%. That to me would be a priority. You'd want to pay that off. But I think if you have the discipline and you have the drive to get into a house hack, I think that is going to provide a higher ROI than just paying off your student loans. Because with a house hack, I mean, you can make 100% on your return on your investment. You put $15,000 into a property, you house hack, have recouped that $15,000. And I think, if you have the drive, if you have the motivation and you're willing to hustle, I think putting that extra money into a house hack will be the best ROI. And I know you guys had the Phi couple on your show, probably a few months ago. They did that exact thing where they had student loans, but they used money to get into a house hack and then just rapidly started paying off their student loans from there.
Yeah, cannot speak highly enough about them those two.
They're amazing, yeah.
They're great. And Josh just cracks me up because he's everywhere on Instagram.
They're man. Yeah. They are a great combo, and Josh is a savage, man. He's just he's hilarious.
Borderline like brilliant. Yeah. Like he's like really, really smart. So it's hopefully he's listening, Josh. But
love you, dude.
But I'll never forget when I said that he reminded him. He reminded me of Scott Trench. He like literally got so red.
He was gassed, dude. He was like, that's like the best compliment you could have given him. But the thing is, he just hasn't. What I love about them too is like, or I guess just for listeners too, is like their presence on social media has grown exponentially because they've gone all in on the community.
Yep.
And that's the thing. It's kind of helping me parlay over here to TikTok and your John E Finance, right? Like that's your alias online and on social. You've built up your community to over 1 million followers. When I say like follower, I don't like the word followers that much. It kind of seems like a fan base, but it's a community, right? Those are your people that you bounce ideas back and forth off each other. So we're at just about 8,000 on Instagram, to put it in perspective. You're at 1 million on TikTok, like 1 million. It's absolutely insane. And you've done that in such a short amount of time. I'm wondering if you could talk to people that are looking to build up their social presence and like turn it into a business, like maybe some tips and tricks on how you got it off the ground, but not only that, just like scaled it at a rapid pace and kind of what
TikTok's crazy
success.
Like
Yeah, absolutely. So, when I was learning about all this financial education and I wanted to shout it from the rooftops, I was high on this Phi idea. I wanted to help other people. So I started talking to my friends and family, but they're not as interested as I am. And so I just started, thinking, how can I reach more people? So, I tried starting a blog. I dabbled in YouTube a little bit. And ultimately, it was in December of 2019, I saw, TikTok, and I'm like, oh, this is like a pretty cool app. Most people were dancing on it back then. I was like, I'm going to start making some like just personal finance videos. And so a couple of my first videos, I was talking about, the difference between a Roth IRA and a 401k, just very simple videos. But the reason or how I scaled that, it started from December of 2019 all the way, we're recording in August of 2021. It's really just consistency. And I think that is everything to do with it, is consistency over intensity, just showing up every single day. People will start realizing that, okay, this guy provides valuable information. He keeps showing up. I'm going to follow him. And it just builds into an exponential following, like 1 million followers. Like I never would have expected that when I started it. And it's just been amazing. Just that consistency has been such a value to everything.
It's great to hear consistency over intensity. That's written. The Mike Tucker, who was the episode, I don't know, probably in the 40s, who's like a strength coach. It says consistency over intensity on my workout program. It's like it relates to everything in your life. If you're just consistent, intensity is great. Like you need it for these bursts, but like if you overshoot, you're gonna burn yourself out. So just being consistent with it. And TikTok is a great example of like, if you just continue to put stuff out there and people like it, the way that it gets shared and the pages that it hits, who would have thought 1 million followers, and like, it's insane how fast that can possibly grow, and you're giving out great content. So it's a testament to that.
Yeah, I've done a lot of research these days, and they say TikTok is the number one way to get your business out there, just purely based on the eyes that you get. And it just, because it's still sort of fresh and kind of newer, the algorithm, the way it works is like, I don't know exactly how it works, but I just know that it's a little bit more open to spreading the message than like, let's say an Instagram or a Facebook that's a little saturated and it's in year 10, 15, whatever, how long ever it's been out. And I think you carved out a nice little niche. Like you're not dancing on there. You're providing, I love your little quick jump cuts, and you talk about things that are actually like really important to people in their personal finance journey. And think about everyone, whether they're going to work, they're at home, like everyone at some point in their day is thinking about money. Every single day. Why are you doing all the things you're doing? Most people are trying to get more money to buy back their time and do things that they actually want to do. So for that to be on an entertainment app, if you will, is really cool to be like, you kind of almost get this burst of like, oh, I'm doing something right for me. Let me go to John's page real quick. Yeah. All right, then I'll go back to the dances. And like, it's just kind of nice to have. And I think you separated yourself there clearly. Videos are awesome. I can say I've been stuck on for hours, dude. Sucked in for hours.
Easy, man.
It's a good thing. And you've kind of parlayed that over to Instagram now too. I think you're almost about close to 40,000 building up the community there. And it's cool how everything overlaps in front of each other. And I want to talk about it as a business though. Like it's not just like you're doing this. Obviously it's fun and it's your passion, but it can really prove to be a lucrative thing. So I know you mentioned like 3 buckets here. You got index funds, you got real estate, and then like you're pumping money into your business. So what are you doing behind the scenes to elevate your game here and then potentially build it as like a passive income stream? I wouldn't call it passive because it's pretty active. I know it takes time for everything.
Yeah. One thing I just want to rewind real quick. You were talking about the TikTok algorithm and how, brands are using that to expand the reach. Right now, TikTok's algorithm, every single post has the ability to, go viral. Every single post stands alone. So when you post something and, the algorithm picks it up, it has the potential to go viral. Whereas when you go on Instagram and you make a reel, or even YouTube even, if your previous post didn't do well, most likely your next post won't do as well. So it's kind of tailored that way, depending on how your views were on the previous post. So that's why I love TikTok. Every TikTok stands alone. Every TikTok has the ability to go viral. And that's what's really been a great boost for me.
Let's talk about, this is funny, and it's like, I don't want to like blow up anybody's spot or anything, but it's interesting to me that like the posts, maybe just because we're in the movement, I think about it like this, but the posts that do so well are like some of the most basic things. Like we have I guess an Instagram graphic that everyone loves. And it's just essentially talking about don't retire at 65 with pension, retire at 40 with cash flowing assets. And it's a very simple message and it just hits and people love it. And I think that it's like when I go on TikTok and see these very simple, basic videos, they crush it. And I think a lot of it is because it has to pertain to the masses. And a lot of people are just hearing this for the first time. And now I have to remind myself, like, okay, not everyone's super into this yet. let people get accustomed to like the language and what we're talking about, and then you can go into the deeper dive on like the things that I like, where it's like the details.
I couldn't agree more. Oh my God. Like some of our Instagram posts, our previous ones that I've worked hours on friggin' all this detail and like siphoning it out. I'm like, okay, we got to make sure the font's good too. It's like 3 separate columns, got all this information on it. And then it's like, oh, cool, 50 likes. I'm like, dude, that took me so much time. Then the other one that took me absolutely 5 seconds to put together, just boom, takes off, it's got 1,000. So I'm like, you could probably talk to that to his point, but like it seems like it is mostly simple personal finance things that are like quick hitters. I don't know why, or why do you think those do so well?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it has to apply to the masses. If you want to go viral, it needs to apply to the general amount of people. But I see the same thing with TikTok. I will spend 30 minutes making a TikTok and I'll post it. It'll go viral. I'll spend 3 to 4 hours making a TikTok, doing all these cool edits and jump cuts or whatever, and it's 100 views. It's just so funny how, the more time you spend on something, it's like the less. It's just crazy how the algorithm works. But
I totally agree. It's a whirlwind. It's a guessing game too.
It is. You have to throw as much as you can at the wall and see what sticks, basically. But yeah, like going into TikTok as a business and like, what am I putting money into? Basically, I want to really create this community, because before, it was just me and I was trying to do everything myself. But I think the biggest lesson I've learned is that when you are a solopreneur, eventually you can't do everything yourself. So I'm looking to, hire out, whether it's an editor or a virtual assistant, whatever it may be. I'm looking to hire someone in that area just to take some load off of me. And then, I've hired a CPA, things like that. I want to hire someone who can, take care of emails and things like that. So I think it's really just freeing up my time so I can make more content and, pay other people to do stuff on the back end.
I think this goes for anybody or anything, especially in your space. I think hiring a virtual assistant will change your life completely. And I've heard this from other people who like, they're hesitant to do it. And like, even we're not at the point where we feel like we need one, but I bet if we spent whatever money it costs, we'd be like, oh my God, like, why did I not spend that earlier? And it's not even that much money, but like, it's hard to put yourself in a mindset to like that spending the money on something where you don't feel like you have an employee, like you have the ability to have an employee yet, but you actually do, because it frees up your time to go do other things that you can help you either reach more people, make a bigger impact, or make more money. And I think those are important things there. But
absolutely,
yeah.
Virtual assistants, dude, we could hire one today. I swear to God, for all the things that we're doing between real estate, weekly juice, and our jobs, and they're not that expensive. I mean, there's I think I'm not sure if you can get them on Fiverr, but I've done a little bit of research and I've seen some things for pretty cheap. I'm like, Jesus, like,
yeah, it's not that.
You're not hiring a $40,000 employee a year. It's like something for just little projects when you need them, and they'll work for cheap because it depends on like where in the world they live, and the cost of living is cheaper. So that's a cool topic to get into too. I think it was maybe Felipe talked about hiring a virtual assistant. I forget who exactly it was, but they said it absolutely changed their life and that they were able to scale every aspect of their business. So
yeah, we've definitely talked about it with a number of guests. But one of the things that I wanted to bring up here is kind of a mentality question about what is it like for you to try to pursue financial independence the way that you do, and then also balance that with like living your life in the moment. Because I think that there's the naysayers out there of people that would argue against financial independence. It's like, well, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Like, I'm going to spend all my money right now because tomorrow's not, certain. And there is some value and some merit to that. I don't disagree completely, but I still think that the percentages tell you that you're probably going to be there tomorrow if you're healthy and you do things that you love. And I would rather see my last 40 years of my life being lived to the fullest, as opposed to like just doing everything now and then wishing that I can retire. So do you have any thoughts there?
Yeah, I think the mental framework you have to have is, sacrifices now will pay dividends later. And you don't have to cut to the bone every expense. You don't have to, live in a van by the river or anything like that. I feel like I live a very, very fulfilling life. I am able to go out when I want. I'm able to go play golf or do whatever I want because basically, one, because of house hacking. I live so frugally because I'm house hacking. Two, I don't have a car payment. So, I can spend on whatever, I'm not having a $500 per month car payment. And so by living frugally, I can actually have more experiences. I can travel more. I can go out with friends, do all those things. And so I think it's, I'm living on probably $2,000 a month, and I live a very fulfilling life. And so it's just, I like to kind of push those naysayers aside and be like, hey, I'm doing this. I'm living proof of it now. Because I don't have a car payment, I can travel more, I can do all these things, so.
Very cool.
So, sorry, really quick, with the no car payment, did you pay off your car, or do you not have a car?
I paid off my car in college. Actually, I was a valet driver. I drove cars for a living. So I valeted cars on nights and weekends while I was in school, and I was able to pay off my car that way.
That's awesome.
Very cool. That's Ryan and I have interesting car stories where we would consider probably both of us like car guys almost in a way. Like we like those things, and then we individually each sold a Mercedes because of the FI movement. Like it was like we bought them early in our lives, well, early in our 20s, right, or mid 20s, and then sold them subsequently because we were like, let's put this on the back burner, so to speak. And I think we're both happy we did it. So
100%.
Yeah.
It's. We talked about it enough that I'm just like, dude, just don't do it. Wait till you're 50 if you have to buy one. Whatever.
Yeah,
unless you have the dough to
or
pay
you have the
buy
cash
twice.
flowing assets that'll pay for it, which I think will be before 50 for us, hopefully, right?
100% before 50. I want to talk about before you dive in there. I know we talked about virtual assistants, and just before we get too deep into the show, is like you also talked about work-life balance, and like I'm just curious about your systems here, and like how do you. When I say systems, I almost mean like your daily life system. Like, how do you divvy up your time? I'm thinking, I know it takes you a long time to put out content and build this content. Then you got to go to work, right? And then you're investing in other things, and you're looking at real estate. Like, how are you divvying up your time? Just to give like people an idea. I just thought about my day to day, and I couldn't look at anything during my 9 to 5. And then I look at I just was locked in meetings. Then I'm done. I'm like, wow. Like if we didn't have COVID and could work from home a little bit, like I can bang on all my stuff in like the first 5 hours of my day, and then wrap up everything else on my time. I don't know what I would do. There's people that have to go in every single day, and they're like, how the hell do I manage? I just don't know how you would recommend that.
Yeah, no, it's a huge conflict that we all experience as content creators. Is how do we manage our time? For the first year and a half, I was putting out TikToks almost daily. I was doing this podcast, and I was working a full-time job, and looking to buy a house and all that. And basically I was doing everything on nights and weekends. And so I was sacrificing some social life and other things like that. But I don't know if you guys probably don't know this, but I actually left my full-time job at the end of May. So I'm actually a full-time content creator I've been a full-time content creator for the past 2 months.
Awesome.
And it's been fantastic. Yeah. I've loved every single minute of it. Because I'm doing what I love. And basically, like I said, that first year and a half, it was just, grinding, like head down, but also enjoying the process as well. It wasn't like a total, like, terrible time or anything like that. But it was just, I knew it was good for the bigger picture. And, when the content started paying the bills, I guess, and because I live so frugally, I didn't have to earn that much in order to leave my job. And so that's why I made the decision. I was like, hey, I'm going to leave my job and go full time at this because one, I have a healthy emergency fund. I live frugally, and, I think I can really scale this to a higher degree. So I didn't really mention how I spend my time, but that was kind of the backstory from it.
Yeah. I think that $2,000 a month that you mentioned is a key to live off of that. I definitely don't live off of that. And I think that it's like, if you can scale your life to a place that you're comfortable, and then your number, I think that's the most important thing, whether it's $2,000 a month, whether it's $4,000, whether it's $6,000 or $12,000, your number, I think that puts it in perspective for people so they know, where do I start, right? I mean, like that whole budgeting process and everything is kind of, it just comes full circle once you understand where the starting point is. So I'm impressed by living off $2,000 a month.
I think about that. That's $24,000 a year, right? That's like, it's not a lot of money. And if you think about it, and only the fear I think people have is like, okay, cool. Like say let's just say they make $40,000 a year or something like that. And then they live off $2,000 a month with taxes all in, like that 24,000 is pretty much, you're almost right there. Like they're not going to be able to leave their job because then how do you buy the real estate? What's the extra cash? Like, how do you invest into the 401k that we're talking about, the IRA that we're talking about? So it's building up those side hustles and things while you're doing your 9 to 5, so that way you can fall back on something else. Like, obviously yours, by living frugally and strategically planning out your life, you were able to do so. And obviously your side hustle is becoming your main hustle, which is really cool.
Yep. Has already become.
He already has. So it's amazing. So with that, just to piggyback off the second part of that question is, how do you, I guess now, what is your day broken up into? Like, do you wake up and start rocking out some content? Like,
what? Yeah, the first few weeks were definitely an adjustment period. It was like, I just felt like I was on vacation. And because, no one is holding you accountable when you leave your job, you are purely in charge of staying motivated and working on yourself. And so the first 3 weeks I was trying to get a schedule going, but now I feel really comfortable. Basically, I will batch, I will script like 10 videos on Mondays. On Tuesdays, I'll film those 10 videos. And then on Wednesday, I'll edit those 10 videos. So then I have content for the next week and a half, just by, batching that content. And, throughout the week, I'll usually, hop on podcasts or, just talk with other people, do brand deals, just a bunch of different things, do real estate, whatever it may be. So I think batching content is the best way to be efficient with your time.
Great. Let's, before we get into the last couple segments of our show, which are kind of fixed, we do the same segments each week. Let's talk a little bit about your podcast. I know you have
Simple Money Guys.
Yeah, the Simple Money Guys podcast. And can you just talk a little bit about that and what type of content you create there?
Yeah, so that was just kind of another kind of fun passion project that I started with my two friends. It's Greg and Ryan. We do the show. It's 3 of us. I met them both through TikTok, which is just funny. We all had the same ideas of financial education on TikTok. And so we were all making the content like that. And then we're like, hey, why don't we start a podcast? We're like, all right. So it was kind of like a random kind of fun get together thing. But now, we've been doing it for almost a year now. I think we're nearing episode maybe 40-ish. And so, we just put out episodes, once a week on Sundays. And we talk about all things, money, whether it's financial freedom, whether it's real estate. And we try to make it more conversational, more kind of just hanging out, So, but it's been great. Yeah, I've had a lot of fun with it.
Cool. Make sure to check out the Simple Money Guys.
Yeah, definitely. And I was just looking at it. It looks like you have 40 minute episodes. It's kind of concise and to the point, and which I think a lot of people appreciate. So very cool. The second to last segment of our show is called the Core 4, and we're going to start out the Core 4 by asking you these are the same questions we ask other guests. What's your favorite investing or business book?
I would say my favorite finance or investing book, it has to be Set for Life. I read that book when I was 22, I believe. I was a senior in college. And it was just the most transformative book that I've read in a long time. Basically, it just transformed my mindset of oh my gosh, all I need to do is save up $25,000, invest it into real estate, and then I'll be financially free. It was just a crazy mindset shift. And I think Scott Trench just puts it amazingly in that book. So he's definitely one of my idols.
I was gonna, honestly, man, I could have predicted that. It's kind of crazy because you said the no car thing, and I just know that I was gonna go into the whole spiel, ride your bike to work and live close to where you work and all that stuff in the book. It's great. So we had a couple people that absolutely love that book. We read it too. It was Rich Dad Poor Dad, Set for Life, then Retire Early with Real Estate with Coach Carson or Chad Carson. Yeah. So those are our 3 that we always go to. And I love the Bigger Pockets books, but I'm not gonna plug them because they should probably pay me for doing that. But I seriously love all their books.
Yeah, they're amazing. John, how old are you? Just for context, you said you did this when you were 22.
Yeah, so right now I'm 25 years old. So,
yeah, way back in the day, 22. That's great, dude. You're killing it for 25. So, congrats on all the hard work and accomplishments. It's amazing. Question 2 in the Core 4 is, what has been your biggest mistake that you've made in your investing journey so far, and how have you learned from it, even though you're 25?
So I don't know if this is necessarily an investing journey. I think my house hack has worked out so far. I might make mistakes in the future. We all do. But I think one of the biggest mistakes that I got held up in, like especially in high school and college, was just trying to keep up with the Joneses. Like there's so many trends and so many fads that were coming along that I was buying the expensive clothes, the expensive shoes. I bought an Infinity coupe sports car when I was in high school too, just because I wanted to look cool. I wanted to keep up with the Joneses essentially. And I think I wasted a lot of money doing that. And I think the majority of people do get caught up in that type of cycle as well. So I would try to remove yourself from keeping up with the Joneses.
I think this is like a major key of us starting the podcast and just like some of the things we talk about, because it is difficult to do. Consumer mindset and the media and everybody pushes you that way. There's a big pendulum that swings you towards that, right? Like I've talked about this on another episode, go to a car dealership, only $299 a month for 36 months, and you get there and it's like you're already sucked in, and then it's not $299, it's actually $439 with the car package and the carrots. So it's just very interesting to, and the only reason that you're even doing that is because you think that your friends are doing it, right?
Exactly.
It's a very hard mentality to break, but I think once you break out from it, at least I felt this way, it's like I'm almost like on the other way. I'm like, do I even want that car that I thought I really wanted? Like it's a psychological, some psychological warfare to get through. But once you get on the other side of it, it's awesome actually.
It's a good way to put it. I would say, take it step by step, right? It's hard to go cold turkey on keeping up with the Joneses and not buying.
Yeah. There's still things that we
get your shoes if you want the shoes. Yeah. But not every month buy a pair of shoes.
Well, that's the thing. Do buy the things you want, but not overboard. Don't if you really, really want to do it, but not just because other people are. Yeah, it's interesting. I think I heard it's like if you're thinking about buying something, wait a week, and if you still want that thing and you're still that's all you can think about, okay, then you really want that thing and you might need that thing. Yeah. But it's a lot of times, the majority of the time, you get to that next week and you're like, on to the next. I want something else. So those are for impulse buys, but cool point to bring up. Yep. Question 3. Who's your who for 2021? We always have to rephrase this question. So essentially, by meeting this person, you feel like your business or life might be taken to the next level. And if you don't have someone that you feel like you are aspiring to meet, maybe somebody that you've met in the past couple of years that has helped you along your journey. Because I always say, life is a people business. Other people can help your net worth by expanding your network. So who is your who?
Yeah, I think, this might be cliche, but I got to bring it back to Scott Trench. He's just been so pivotal because I feel like, he's probably 5 or 6 years older than me. And I feel like he was just, a few steps ahead of me. So I've been just trying to follow his path and learn from him as much as possible. He has such a way of just thinking in different terms. And I think he really challenges the status quo in certain things. So I think, he's helped build Bigger Pockets, which is a multi-million-dollar business. And I think he's just a fantastic role model to look up to. And funny story real quick, I actually hopped on a Zoom meeting with him. I got super lucky that I had a contact through another podcast who got Scott on his podcast. And I was like, dude, if I could talk to Scott just for a few minutes, that'd be amazing. So we got in touch. We had a Zoom call. We were talking about TikTok and he was talking about Bigger Pockets, obviously, but he's just such a great guy to talk to that, if I could meet him in person and I feel like surrounding yourself with those type of people will seriously level up your game. Absolutely.
Yeah, if you have a connect, shoot him our way. We'd love to interview him.
Five couple interviewed him on the show.
Oh, great. Yeah, we would. On their live. Yeah, absolutely.
So, well, I would love to meet him. He does think, I would say, I don't know if it's outside the box, but just he's a different frame of mind. And obviously he's taking Bigger Pockets to great heights. So super cool. Last question is, I know you're young, and I'm not sure how much you thought about this, but what do you want your legacy to be? And part of this question is kind of what's your why? Getting you out of bed every morning to do what you do, aside from it being just, your passion.
Yeah, I love that question because it gets to, the deep why, why am I doing this? And I think, not only for my financial freedom, but for my family's and my friends' financial freedom, if I can help other people reach financial independence, I think it'll just make it a better world in general. I think Bigger Pockets has this motto: if they can get as many people as financially independent, or get as many people as they can financially independent, they will make the world a better place. Because when you don't have to work for a corporation you don't like, you start doing things you do like. You start giving back to the community. You start helping other people. And, I'm helping other people learn about financial education. And so if I can help as many people as I can get to that financial independence, I seriously think it'll help the world in a positive way.
Absolutely. Really, really good answer. I can appreciate that. I think we've made it to the last drop. So, last drop is, if you can go back in time, I know you're only 25, but if you can go back to your teenage self, what advice would you give your younger self and why?
I've thought about this a little bit. I am young, but I would say get used to being uncomfortable. I think, being uncomfortable is where most of the growth happens. I was in high school. I, stayed in my bubble. I stayed with my close-knit friends, and, I was comfortable, but I was never really growing. And until I got into college, until I started house hacking, really, I made myself become uncomfortable. And, that's what really is pushing my limits. I was never comfortable on camera, but here I am being some TikTok superstar. And it's just crazy how things work. The more uncomfortable things you do, the more growth you're going to see. And I think people should get accustomed to being uncomfortable.
That's a great one. Most people, we've talked about this a few times, but most people are thinking about the way they look and how other people perceive them. And half the time they're not judging you on the way you look and the things that you're doing, the way you think. It's like everyone's kind of always wrapped up in their own head. So just get out there and do it and know that everyone's just as uncomfortable as you, even if they act like they're not, or they were once in the spot where they were uncomfortable. Now they're like, screw it, I'm good. Whatever. I'm just going to do my thing. So I think that's a great point. You go from being uncomfortable talking and to a mass of people, and now you have a following base of a million. So it's just insane. Good way to put it. So can appreciate that. And I like the legacy, man. It's great.
Awesome. John, we really appreciate it. If people were inspired by your story or want to follow you on TikTok or want to learn more about you and just learn about maybe some of the investing that you do, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Yeah, definitely. You can follow me on TikTok. It's at John E Finance. That's JOHNE Finance. It's the same handle on Instagram as well. You can DM me on Instagram. So yeah, Instagram and TikTok are the two primary ways you guys can reach me.
Perfect. I'll make sure to tag you and everything. And I'm sure most of our listeners know who you are anyways at this point. But it was a pleasure having you on the show, man. Thanks for dropping some knowledge on us, and congratulations on all the success. I know the coolest part is what you're doing is just giving back and spreading knowledge. It's not like you're just building up
hoarding money.
To hoard money. Yeah, you're actually teaching people how to deploy their money and make a better life for themselves. So really, really admirable what you're doing. And it was an honor having you on the show, man.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan and Corey, for having me. It's been a blast. I love your guys' show. And I'm super excited to see where you guys go, a year or 5 years from now. It'll be super interesting. And I'm thinking about going to Philly for a trip. So if I'm ever in the area, I will definitely let you guys know as well.
Yeah,
dude, you have to.
Let us know, man. We're
dinner and drinks on us. You let us know.
We'll see.
All right.